My friend's dad primarily spoke Chinese, and one day he got a call from the IRS. Conveniently, that person was also speaking Chinese and needed to verify his social security number. Unfortunately, he did fall for the scam. It was an elderly man, and sadly, it was him trusting the other person on the phone because they spoke his native language.
My parents are recently retired. I received a phone call from them and they were clearly kind of distraught. They believed that their phone was hacked, and they told me that they received an email from someone claiming to be from Apple. This person on the other end of the phone instructed my father to make a series of Zelle payments. So my father followed his instructions to set Zelle up and made the transfer. After a while, they got suspicious and called me on their landline, and once I heard that a Zelle payment was involved, I realized they had been scammed.
We're almost in this kind of third phase of a very long-term generational shift from a digital standpoint. When digital first started and pretty much most banking moved online, what we saw was this phase of cyber attacks, fraudsters trying to destabilize the service. And it's not that we don't see those today, but they're far less common in terms of cyber attacks for financial gain. After that, there was a very clear arms race, things like behavioral biometrics, device ID, malware prevention, sharing of data, real-time capabilities. And I think ultimately what happened is the fraudsters kind of got to this very clear tipping point, which is, if I can't pretend to be you, then I'm quite simply, I will involve you in the fraud. And unfortunately, that's what we're now seeing, is that the fraudsters know that any large organization or any organization that takes risk management seriously probably has anywhere between 6 and 10 layers there to prevent fraud occurring. So if you can get the customer to participate in the fraud, that materially changes the game. Because even if you alert that fraud, you're probably going to be speaking to the customer, who will probably validate that that fraud is okay to continue. So I would say right now that trend continues to be authorized fraud, get the customer involved in the fraud. What we then see within that is evolutions of what those scams are based on the trends we're seeing. And that might be playing on things like the pandemic, changes in technology, or changes in legal obligations such as PSD2 and SCA and what that requires for authentication. So they tend to target the narrative of the time, but fundamentally, if you strip it back, they are getting the customer involved in completing the fraud because they know that impersonation is far more complex and far less rewarding.